So hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. This is Mel's Gaming here with another Way of the Hunter video. Now, starting off with a clip that I unfortunately couldn't find for last video. So if you guys watched my last video where I showed off a few 5-star trophies I have found, including several 5-star mule deer, you may have heard me say that unfortunately I lost one of the clips of one of the 5-star mule deer. Now, I checked through all my clips and this clip was nowhere to be seen. I log on to my PC the next day and this clip had appeared out of nowhere. I don't know if it was some kind of error or bug, but it appeared, so I figured I would put it at the start of this video for you guys to see, especially considering the very next trophy we're going to take a look at. Now, I was really upset when I actually lost the clip for this guy, because this was the most unique looking 5-star mule deer I had actually shot. This one has very clean looking antlers, like a very clean frame, very straight tines at the back, just a very different looking mule deer. Now, you guys will have seen this screen, which was the shot replay, and I actually managed to get this from my taxidermy assistant, because if you go through your taxidermy assistant, you can take a look at all of the animals that are in your lodge, and you can take a look at these screens again. And this was what I managed to show off in that video and just tell you guys that I had shot this particular buck. So was quite happy that I could just include that at the very start of this video, because actually a couple of days later I had something particularly interesting happen. So once again, at this particular lake in Diamond Drill, which I showed off in the last video, I came down here again and there was another 5-star mature mule deer. But this 5-star mature really stood out to me because he looks exactly the same, pretty much just a carbon copy of that mule deer that I just showed at the start of this video, which was meant to be in the last video, but I lost the clip of it. And I thought, that's kind of weird how that worked out, because I didn't have that starting clip for the last video, it just wasn't there. I looked and looked and looked and it wasn't there. I log on the next day onto my PC, find that clip, and then end up coming back to Diamond Drill, back to check on this herd, and then there's another mule deer that looks almost exactly like the mule deer that I had shot in that first clip that I just showed off. And I'm saying that this was a father and son, because it does seem like genetics in herds pay some influence into the shapes of antlers and horns, etc. If you have like a really wonky mature buck, you'll see like wonky younger bucks is what I've noticed with mule deer in other herds. And I've also noticed it with mountain goats as well, with the mature one having wonky horns and then all of the successive younger ones having wonky horns as well. So I thought that this was really, really interesting. Now, I managed to bring this buck down nice and quickly, and as soon as I saw him, I really did think he looked like that other buck that I just shot at the very beginning of this video. I thought he just looked so similar, and it really is, like I said, it's like that it's a father and son, almost like Hollywood and Hollywood's father, that you shoot Hollywood in the missions, and then you have the father already mounted in the lodge, and then you put them alongside each other, and they're very, very similar, not exactly the same, which I've seen a few people say that they are exactly the same. If you take a close look, they are actually slightly different, but they're very, very close. And so are these two. Very close in the genetic percentage, and very, very close in how their racks look. And in the lodge, the first buck I took at the very beginning of this video, he's bigger, but like I said, this one looks very, very similar, but a slightly smaller frame. And I just thought that was really interesting. And like I said, it was kind of interesting that I found that clip after making the last trophy highlights video. I was like, why could I not have found this before? Why did it not show up then? Why did it show up now? Well, it kind of all works out after shooting this guy, because it makes so much sense to have them in the same video. Now, this next set of animals is kind of interesting, because I did kind of do a little bit of an experiment that you guys were basically asking about in some of the comments on other videos. So in this particular herd of Bighorn sheep, I have a couple of 4-star matures. That was one of them there, and that's another one right there. And I had been keeping a very, very close eye on them to see if they would actually grow and become 5-star matures. Wasn't interested in taking them out as 4 stars. I'd already taken a 4-star mature and seen what they looked like, so I was more interested in leaving these guys to basically live out until they got to 5 stars or expired naturally, and was hoping that if they did just die off as 4 stars, that hopefully some of the younger rams in this group might grow up to be just as big, if not bigger. And I thought that this was quite interesting, because one of the rams always looked slightly bigger to me, and you'll actually notice, hopefully, when I cut to this, hopefully you guys will notice that, again, one of them looks to be slightly bigger. So here you can see both of them turned into 5-star matures, and actually here they are just side by side. You can see this is later on. I was actually doing a story mission at the time, couldn't find the things I needed for the story mission, so decided to come and check on the Bighorn. Now, once again, taking a look at them as 5 stars, I thought that one of them looked noticeably bigger than the other. And at this point I had to make a decision, because obviously once I've taken one shot, the whole herd is going to spook, and I didn't know if I would get an opportunity at taking the second 5-star. So I was basically trying to decide which one to take. And I thought that one on the left there just looked like he had a bigger curl. And I may have been mistaken. Maybe, I'm not sure. But that one looks bigger to me, so you guys will have to tell me what you think. Now, as that other 5-star runs away, I did look at trying to line up a shot on him, but there was just no opportunity, seeing as the ground there dips down. Now, I was kind of hoping that I would be able to just follow the herd and take that second 5-star down. But obviously, the very first thing we've got to do is claim the first 5-star that we took down. Now, I used photo mode here to get a nice look at him on the ground and take a couple of screenshots, because, you know, maybe use them for thumbnails, I don't know. It's always worth trying to get some nice screenshots of these guys, I think. It's a shame about how he kind of fell with his head sort of down into the ground. Would have been cool if he landed with his head sort of upright. Would have been nice to see both horns. But still an incredible looking animal. I think the Bighorn are one of the best models in this game. Their horns are just top notch, incredible, just fantastic looking in my opinion. Of course, now we need to pick this guy up and take a look at what actually happened with that shot, and take a look at what we got in terms of trophy rating. So, once again, a really clean shot there, very, very happy with that. The 308 is a really fantastic gun, a quite expensive gun in terms of the various prices for weapons in this game, but a very good gun that I like a lot. And here you can see he had 99.47% genetics. He is a 5-star, got 5-star hunt rating and 5-star mature for the Bighorn itself. And he scores a total of 476.1. Now, the genetics thing is still so widely up for debate. If you saw my previous video, you'll have seen me mention a 3-star young bull moose that a friend of mine shot, and it didn't have the greatest genetics, which it kind of throws off some theories, and I'm still kind of quietly watching and waiting to see when it gets kind of worked out for definite. In the meantime, I'm kind of sat here with my own theories, but I don't want to confuse anything. Now, after taking a look at that amazing, incredible 5-star Bighorn that I was so happy to harvest, I wanted to go and get his brother. So I wanted to go and find the other 5-star, and I found the little herd of Bighorn here. As you'll see, they're running around on the bit of a slope here, and I was just trying to stalk them, same as I would any other animal. And unfortunately I did spook them. It was completely my own fault. I didn't see them there, I spooked them, and I was just keeping an eye to see sort of where they were running to. And you can see I placed a marker there. I didn't think anything of this at all at the time, but I start wandering around in this direction looking to see where they've gone, and map boundary pops up. They had gone out of the map, basically, and I couldn't follow them anymore. And I never saw them again inside the map boundary here. You can see I'm right on the edge. And unfortunately, I just didn't see them inside the reserve, so I can only assume that they ran outside. And I thought, okay, I'll come back in a couple of days' time, same time, see if they're here again. The herd was here, the other 5-star was not. Now, I thought that this would be interesting, because a lot of comments I was getting was to say things like, oh, if you left that first bighorn we shot, the 99% genetics one, that if I had left that, maybe it would get closer to the max score for them. But this is the risk, right? I didn't change the time more than a couple of times between seeing that herd run off and then coming back to check. You know, I went off and did missions and stuff, but actually changing the time, which is what seems to make animals age, I didn't do it more than a couple of days worth of changing the time, if that makes sense. So I maybe changed the time like twice before I went back to check, because I was eager to go and find that other bighorn. And unfortunately he never came back, so I can only assume that he had died. And that to me just means, see a 5-star, shoot the thing before you lose it. Because considering that one ram had such high genetics, I wonder if the other one maybe didn't have as high, or maybe he would have had as high genetics. It's almost impossible to know what kind of genetics an animal's going to have until you shoot it. So yeah, for me, if I see a 5-star, I'm just going to shoot it. If it could have got a little bit bigger, it could have got a little bit bigger, but I would rather not lose trophies, you know, where I can. It's part of this game, that's how it works, you're gonna lose trophies, but if I can avoid that by just taking an animal out immediately, then I will. Unfortunately, that was not an option with that second bighorn, because he ran out of the reserve and then I couldn't find him again. So, unfortunate situation, but a bit of a learning thing, and I thought that that might be interesting for you guys. Especially if you were wondering if it's worth leaving 5 stars, I wouldn't recommend it. I would just take them out on site. Now, this was another 5-star bighorn that I saw mature from a 4-star to a 5-star. You will have seen the clip where he was a 4-star, I came back and he was a 5-star. And again, this is one that I'd been keeping an eye on for quite a while. I'd been managing the herd and just keeping an eye on this particular individual to see if he would grow over quite a long time, you know, several real-life days of coming back and checking this spot and seeing if he had grown. And eventually he had grown into a 5-star. Now, once again, if I could have lifted his head here, it would have been, I think, nice for some photo opportunities. But just an incredible-looking beast. The horns on the bighorn remind me of the Hunter Classics bighorn, which they have always been renowned for being some of the best-looking bighorn in any hunting games. They look really, really incredible, especially the very big ones. And these are very, very reminiscent of that. They look very similar, and yeah, that makes me incredibly happy that they're so realistic. They're not too big, they're not too small, they've got that mass that bighorn horns should have. For me, that's the thing with bighorn, they need that mass, especially on the top of their head. That's the thing I look for when I'm looking at bighorn, you know, in any game, is that thick mass on the top of their head, because that's like one of their main characteristics, is that huge mass in their horns. They're an incredible animal. Now, this one again is a 99.68% genetic. I don't know whether to say genetic potential or what, but I'm just going to say genetics. Bighorn, but this one scores a 476.1. Now, again, maybe if I'd left this for another couple of days, maybe he would have got bigger in score. But do you know what? This was actually the first 5-star bighorn I saw ever. So I'm just happy to have this in my lodge. I would much rather shoot it and put it in my lodge. And, you know, I don't know how different it would look to one that scores 500. But I don't want to lose these. You know, that losing that one 5-star, even though that happened after this, technically, it really did kind of bother me. I felt like I had failed. And I'm very, very hard on myself. You guys will know that if you've watched any of my videos, that I'm a big perfectionist. It's just how I am. I hold myself to very high standards, whether it's with making videos or whether it's with playing games like this. And losing that other 5-star ram, it really bothered me, because I felt like I had really missed out, like I had failed, and like it wasn't going to be, like I hadn't done as best as I can, basically. And so I would much rather shoot an animal like that, which, like I said, that, even though I put them in kind of the wrong order, that was actually my first 5-star bighorn ever. It just worked out better to put it in that order in the video. Even though that was my first ever 5-star, and he could have maybe got bigger, maybe. I'm much happier to just have him in the lodge than, you know, ever potentially have lost him. So that's just me. You guys might want to risk it with leaving 5 stars to see if they'll get any bigger, but I would say it is a very big risk. and I wouldn't recommend it personally. Now, once again, I had the privilege of watching another 4-star animal turn into a 5-star. Now, this particular herd of mountain goats was pretty much always outside this one outpost on the opposite side of the lake, and it had 2 4-star matures in it, so quite regularly I'd come back and check on them, and eventually one of the 4-stars turned into a 5-star. The other 4-star was a little bit wonky, and I noticed that after actually getting close to the herd, and I took him out as a 4-star, and I don't believe he ever would have actually become a 5-star. But managed to take this particular 5-star out, once again using the 308, got through both lungs, and he didn't go very far, as you will have seen, before he actually dropped. Now, I was super happy to harvest this guy as a 5-star. I think it is so cool to be able to watch animals go from a 4-star mature to a 5-star, and just see them progress like that. And I think it takes a good amount of knowledge of the animals to sort of pick and choose which ones you think are actually going to make it to that trophy potential. And there's just something cool about that in my mind, that you can sit there and watch these animals and choose which ones you think have the best potential, and then seeing it pay off with something like this where they do end up becoming a 5-star, I think is really awesome. And the 5-star mountain goats look so cool. I think all of the mountain goats in general actually look really cool, but the 5-stars are noticeably quite big, and they are so beautiful. Such a well done model, in my opinion. As I mentioned in a previous video, there was criticism initially once the mountain goats got shown off, but I think they look perfect, honestly. I don't know whether the models were maybe reduced in size a little bit between the trailers and what we have in game now, but I think they look pretty darn near perfect, and that is something to me that is so cool to see. I love the realistic models in this game for the animals and the realistic behaviour. It just adds to the overall experience of this game. Now, from one 5-star mature mountain goat to another, this was once again a 4-star that I had been keeping an eye on for a really long time. They were never something that I was actually targeting in this area. I was actually here to hunt elk, bears and wolves every time I came up here, because it was a very good area for all of those. And quite often, as I was driving to the area, I'd see this herd of mountain goats, and if they weren't there as I was driving to this particular spot, they'd be around this particular area, and I would see this 4-star that I thought, okay, I'll keep an eye out on this particular group and see if he turns into a 5-star. And sure enough, after, again, quite a long time, he did actually turn into a 5-star. Now, there's a couple of other individuals in that group that I think have some potential, some of those 3-stars, but super happy to once again see another 4-star turn into a 5-star. When I see 5-star animals cropping up like this, it makes me feel like I'm doing something right, which is always a nice feeling in a game where, you know, it's not been out for very long, so we're all still learning, and that's something I have to always remember when I'm being hard on myself over certain things like losing that one bighorn. Everyone is still learning with all of the different things, whether it's learning exactly what the genetics mean, or learning exactly when is the best time to take these animals out. It's all a learning curve, but seeing the 5-stars pop up as you're cultivating your herds and taking out the poorer animals is always a real satisfying feeling. And I had taken a couple of individuals out of this herd that were poorer, so maybe in the end eventually I'll get to see even some more big mountain goats coming out of this herd. I'm very carefully keeping an eye on them every time I come up to this location, and yeah, it's already paid off with this one 5-star, so super happy with that. Now, as you all have seen, this shot from the monoblock just completely annihilated this goat, dropped him on the spot, which is always ideal. If I can make those shots that drop them on the spot, I'm always happy to. You don't get a lot of drop shots on animals in Way of the Hunter, and it always just feels super satisfying when you do actually nail one of those shots. Now, this guy has fairly low percentage on the genetics there at 87%. So, again, I kind of wonder what it is that made this one in particular become a 5-star. And 469.0 on the score. So, not as big as these can get still, which is basically most of the animals I've been harvesting. Most of my 5-stars are never quite as, you know, they're never... I don't think I've had one above 490. I think I've had some in the 480s for sure, but never anything above 490 for any of the species. So maybe that'll be something for later down the line if I'm willing to leave certain 5 stars and see if they'll become bigger because I've already got certain ones in the lodge. It will be interesting to see, I think, as time goes on. But at this point, I'm just so happy to be putting 5 stars into my lodges. And it's always a real nice treat when I'm out on a hunt, especially, you know, I'm not looking for 5 stars, I'm just out to hunt. And then you see a 5 star pop up and it's like, oh, especially like this encounter, where this was a completely new area that I had not yet explored, so I had no idea what was in this area. It's not like I had seen a 4 star in this area and watched it grow into a 5 star. I had no idea what was going to be here when I came over here. And I spotted something that I had been looking for really quite hard because it was one of my favourite species on the Nez Perce map, and that is a 5 star elk. The 5 star elk look incredible. I'd seen some pictures of them posted, a couple of videos, and I really wanted one. They were one of my most wanted 5 stars off of this map, and when I saw this 5 star, just an area I'd never been to, I just was so blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a 5 star over here. And this whole herd, as I was spotting them, I was thinking, damn, some nice genetics in here. Oh, there's a 5. That was literally how it happened, and then it was panic stations. Now, unfortunately, there was some bighorn quite close to me that I didn't notice. They spooked, and as they spooked, this elk herd spooked as well. So I had to track them down, and I didn't have great wind here. As you can see, the direction of the wind is kind of blowing straight towards these guys. So I thought, okay, I'll have to make a longer shot on this 5 star, because I don't want to keep spooking them and pushing them, especially after that experience with the bighorn. I don't want this guy to run away. I don't know how long he's been a 5 star. He might have become a 5 star that day, or he might have been a 5 star for 3 or 4 days. You know, it's impossible to know when you just find one randomly like this. So I was like, okay, he's got to go down. And thankfully, I had the 300 on me, zeroed for 200, held the shot a little bit high because of the distance of 260, and as you'll see, he went a few steps, but not very far before he actually tumbles over. What a beast. Just look at this beast. They are so incredible. The elk models overall are up there with a couple of my favourite models in the entire game. I remember when we saw the very first trailer for this game, and there was the close-up of the elk looking at the hunter, and that was when I thought this game has some serious potential. That was the moment that I was like, oh, this is one to watch. And, you know, finally getting to be actually playing it, and then find a 5 star elk, which we'd seen sort of almost like teasers of in like the trophy video when they showed off how their trophy system worked and everything like that, and they showed a huge elk, and I was like, this is one that I need to find for the trophy lodge. So managing to take this guy down was such a huge thrill, and just seeing an elk of this size in the game was really incredible. The biggest I had seen was I think a fairly small 4 star, and it just didn't compare to the size of this bull when I saw him. Just an incredible animal. Pretty happy with that shot from the 300, I have to be honest. But this is a 5 star mature, 95.4% genetics there. What an incredible looking animal. I really wish that in the overview screen that you could like zoom out, because this guy's antlers just don't fit in this screen at all. He is just such a beast. Those back tines are huge. Just an incredible looking elk. Now, I have to say the developers have confirmed that the elk in-game are based off of Rocky Mountain elk, not Roosevelt elk. There's been a lot of discussion regarding that, so just to make that clear, they have said these are Rocky Mountain elk. And honestly, I think they just look so cool. I really, really love the elk. I think they are just so incredibly well done. And it doesn't stop there. I came back up into the mountains, not far from where I shot that second 5 star mountain goat. I was actually doing a mission to hunt 2 black bear, and yeah, I saw a herd of elk, and there was another 5 star bull in there. There was some real beasts hanging around in this herd. There was a couple of other mature bulls that were really good size, and then when I saw the 5 star, I was like, there's no way. Another one. But you can see there's a 4 star in there as well. And I was like, okay, this might be a herd to keep an eye on. These are some good genetics out in this herd. Now, I decided to go for another longer shot on this elk. Now, purely because I thought it was going to be quite difficult to actually get down there and get much closer without spooking them. And once again, I just didn't want to spook these. There was a particular mount in the lodge that I needed to, well, I was hoping for 2 5-star elk in it. Now, I know there's no rares in-game currently, but it would also look cool with 2 rares. But I really wanted to have 2 5-star bull elk in this one particular mount. And I'll make sure to put some pictures at the end of the video so you guys can see the one mount I'm talking about. So, managed to take the shot there from just a little bit longer than normal, and I was pretty sure that that shot was on, and yeah, sure enough, he's trotting away there with his head down, so I knew that that shot must have been on the money, and yeah, not very far before he actually goes down. Now, when I came up here, he'd actually slid down the hill a little bit of the way, and was kind of wrapped around this tree a little bit with his head and antlers here, so I couldn't get a really, really good look at him on the ground, but I knew that this thing just looked absolutely huge. Now, again, pretty darn happy with that shot from the 300 there at 242 meters. The 300 is an absolute powerhouse in this game. I'm so not used to having a 300 that is just this powerful. Compared to the other hunting games I've played where the 300 lacks a lot of power, it's just insane in this game. And I always think, maybe I don't want to take that far of a shot with it, but it's just no problem in this game. Now, this one is a 95.54% genetic potential bull, or genetic bull, but you can see already, this guy is quite different to the previous bull I took out. Look at the size of the brow tines on this guy, and not just the brow tines either, the G2s are huge too. He is just a monster of a bull, and just so unique compared to the previous bull. They are so completely different, and I thought that was really, really cool, especially with the one mount I had in mind in the lodge where you can have 2 bull elk fighting, and that was the mount I wanted the 2 5-stars for. I thought that would be really cool because they are so different that they will look different enough, but they'll just fit perfectly in that mount, and it's just going to be so cool. And I was just so thrilled. I could not wait to go and put these guys into that mount. That mount was the one I wanted in my trophy lodge, and I'm so thrilled I managed to complete it with just 2 monsters. And, this is only a 485. I want to see a 500 for one of these, because I think they're going to look incredible. And I love the ivory tips on the antlers as well. They just look so, so good. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous bull, and I've been so lucky with finding 5-stars for all of the species that I've really been going after, and I hope that, there'll be more 5-stars to come, because more 5-stars for the elk, especially in the trophy lodge, I wouldn't complain. Now, finally, a little bit of an interesting story that happened. So I was heading to one of my favourite hunting spots. As you will have seen, I was driving in the Jeep there, and as I came around that corner there was a herd of whitetail, and I quickly tried to spot some of them as they were running off, and amongst them was a 5-star. I spent well over a real life hour trying to track that 5-star after they ran away. They kept bumping, the group split up. I had an absolute nightmare. I ended up going back to the lodge, changing the time to try and get them back into that territory that I had initially spooked them from. I spent just hours and hours and hours in real life time trying to find this group of whitetail again. It was insane, and I got to the point where I thought, well, he must have just died, because I'm not finding that 5-star. And then something happened. I made it whitetail drink time, came to one of the spots where I knew they liked to hang out along the river, didn't know if it would be the same herd, but amongst them was a 5-star who looked pretty similar to that 5-star I had spooked. Now, this was about 800 metres to a kilometre away from where I just spooked that 5-star, and I initially wasn't sure if this was going to be the same deer, but one of the features that I remembered seeing on that buck as it ran away was that it had very dark antlers. Well, as you can see, this buck on the ground has some seriously impressive and very, very dark coloured antlers. And I thought maybe this could be the same buck. Now, I have spent quite a while trying to compare pictures of, some screen grabs basically from that first clip where it ran off to some pictures of this buck that I shot here, and I think it's the same buck. I think so. The problem is that I had a 4-star mature in the area, and I'm not confident 100% that it wasn't the 4-star that matured and looked really, really similar and the original 5-star died, because the 4-star mature disappeared. But the 4-star mature I thought looked older than this. So I'm not really sure, but I think this is the same buck. I think so. But regardless, I was super happy to find this, and it all happened because I was in that area looking super hard for that one 5-star that I saw initially, whether this ends up being that one or not. But this has a different rack to the other 5-star whitetail that I've harvested. It has sort of different tines, different points. The way that they're angled is completely different, especially the second tines, the G2s. They're sort of angled more forwards on this rack than they are on the other whitetail I have, and that makes this one look really, really unique. And of course the antlers are much darker on this individual as well than on the other ones I have. They're a lot paler on the other 2 5-stars I have in the lodge. So I was really happy to find this guy, and I really do think it was the same buck. It looks very similar, the configuration, when I slowed it down and got some screen grabs, I think it's the same buck. I have a feeling that it is, and I think that the 4-star mature that was in the area died off, and that added to the complete confusion of that evening that was spent hunting for this guy. I spent so long tracking and just trying to find anywhere for them to turn up. The only zones I had were a feed zone and a rest zone, and they weren't showing up to those at all. And if they were there, they were at the wrong times. It was just completely crazy. And I try not to hunt need zones as much as possible in this game. I will use them to give me a rough idea of when and where animals are likely to show up. But the thing is, in this game, the need zones aren't completely predictable. Those animals might not show up there, they might go somewhere else, they might not be on time. There's a lot of different factors that play into it. So I was trying my best to just try tracking that group around, and it just ended up that they were in a completely different location, and it was completely insane. But it was really awesome, and I've had a fantastic few days again on this game, some really, really lucky harvests, and I've got some new beautiful mounts in my trophy lodge, as you guys will see on screen right now. But that is going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this. Some footage that I was just so excited to share with you guys. The elk, honestly, were the highlights for me. I absolutely love these 5-star elk. I think that they're just so beautiful looking, and the mount in the lodge it makes me so happy. The mount is incredible, and there's not any antler clipping at all on this mount, even though they're fighting, which I think is just incredible. To see a mount that's just as well done as this with no antler clipping, I think is really, really awesome. But like I said, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching and all your support as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you.